Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. If you've never been here before, I'm the mom and I review the movies. My goal is to help you decide how to spend your hard earned time and money. I hate wasting my time on bad movies, and I don't want you to have to do that. So be sure and subscribe, ring the little bell, and you'll be notified every time I have a new movie review uploaded here on YouTube. Thank you. I really appreciate your support. It would be most excellent. Speaking of that, today the movie I'm reviewing is Bill and Ted Face the Music. It is available now on Amazon. The movie is rated PG-13, which, by the way, the first two movies in the franchise were rated PG. It's an hour and 31 minutes, and the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is a B. And let me explain why. In fact, the reason why this review is a little later than I wanted it to be was because I was so excited about the movie and ultimately a little disappointed the first time I saw it. I had such high expectations because I loved the first one. And so I thought, okay, maybe I was in a bad mood or something. I don't know. So I watched it again. And in all fairness, I did enjoy it more this second time. I think maybe all of the stress was released. I just thought I'm going to enjoy it and not focus on maybe the dumb little things that bugged me the first time around. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. First of all, if you have never seen the first two movies, it's probably good to go back and watch them, just to at least the first one, just to kind of get an idea of why we love these characters, Bill and Ted, so much. They're so adorable and endearing. Now, as far as plot goes, if you haven't seen them in a long time, don't worry about it. You can still enjoy this movie without knowing all the plot points of the first two movies so much. This is supposedly the final installment in the franchise that features these two airhead rockers from San Dimas. Now, the movie had me at Keanu Reeves. It's directed by Dean Parasat, and it's a goofy comedy that lets us revisit our favorite time traveling teens as middle aged dads who are still trying to write that epic song that will change the world. So some fans will get satisfaction in seeing the franchise wrapped up, and other fans might be disappointed and might even cringe at how this franchise wraps up. But either way, I think the very last line of the movie is very sweet and might even bring a little tear to your eye. Now, let me give you some tips for parents. Of course, your kids probably aren't going to know these characters, so maybe go back and have them watch the first one first so that they'll like them and they'll understand why, as grown adults, they're still acting like teenagers. So it's actually a pretty family friendly film, although you might need to explain to your kids who the musicians are who are brought back again in this movie, as well as the people of history from the first movie. We get to see these musicians come back, but we don't really get to learn a lot about them. So if you're unfamiliar with them, you can't maybe appreciate their greatness and their significance in the movie. There is some profanity, however, no F bombs, and I'm always grateful for that. You do see some scenes in hell with the devil, or no, he's not the devil, he's death. That might be a little scary for very little children, but for the rest of us, they're pretty hilarious scenes. I'll get to that in a few more minutes. There are some lines spoken in German without translation, although they're not going to ruin the plot of the movie not knowing what they said. Some people are in dangerous situations, and there's a little bit of bullying going on. Now, some themes where we can learn lessons from are, first of all, the narrator says, sometimes things don't make sense until the end of the story. And I thought that that was an appropriate quote because this is now the end of the story. And so all the things that happened before in the prior two movies are supposed to make sense. Well, they don't always, but that's what the narrator says. Other themes are choices and their consequences. And how music really does bring the world together. I love that. Other themes are family and marriage and parenting, as we see the aging of our two teenagers, destiny, believing in each other, and of course, the final message is be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. Now, there were a lot of things I did like about the movie, even the first time that I saw it. So, first of all, as if Keanu Reeves couldn't get any better. Everyone loves Keanu, and I've heard so many amazing urban legends about how awesome and kind and generous he is. So it didn't surprise me when I read a little story about when they were filming in this Louisiana city. There was a big sign outside this family's house that said, "You're breathtaking." And so Keanu, assuming that they were talking about him. Of course they were. Went over to the family and took some photos with them. And I just thought that that was so sweet. He actually looked really different. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, whoa, what's going on? What looks different? And it took me a while to realize it's because he shaved his beard that he looks so different. But it seemed like there was also something else going on, like weird plastic surgery or some weird something. I don't know. And it pains me to say that because I love Keanu. I'm obsessed with Keanu, like everybody else in the planet. So, but there was just something a little off that kind of kept taking me out of the movie. And I kept staring to try to figure out what was going on with him. Now, one thing that I thought was really great was that, of course, Keanu Reeves is a way bigger movie star than his co star, Alex Winter. So I was really impressed that, of course, Keanu didn't ask for more screen time or more lines in the movie. They really are equal partners as Bill and Ted. And so I thought that that was really great. And people have asked, well, what happened to Alex Winter? But he actually is still in the movie industry. He just prefers to be behind the scenes, working as a producer and a director, and has focused more on documentaries in recent years. But you can tell that they got a kick out of being together, and that always makes it really fun for audiences to see. It was also really fun to see the two of them as different versions in time as their time traveling is taking them forward and backward. And kudos to the makeup department because they really came up with some creative scenes that were hilarious. Fan service, I thought, was done in the perfect amount by inviting back former cast members. However, not all former cast members were there. For example, the actor George Carlin, who played Rufus in the first two movies, actually died in 2008. So they used archive footage from the very first film so that he could be kind of a digital version of a cameo in this movie. And I thought that that was really sweet. Death, of course, was awesome. And that's so funny that I'm saying a sentence like that. But William Sadler returns to play his hilarious role as Death. And those were probably some of the standout moments for me in the movie. So, by the way, keep watching the final credits until the end of the music to see some fun musical moments, and then keep watching until the very, very end of all of the credits for a final Bill and Ted scene. It's not earth shattering, it doesn't lead into another sequel, but it's just cute. Now, talking about Bill and Ted, let's talk about their daughters. Um, Ted's daughter is played by Bridget Lundy-Paine, and she just crushed the mannerisms. She acted, looked, and moved and spoke like her dad, Ted, which was really, really fun. She just had the same facial expressions and mannerisms that really sold it. And I believed her and thought it was really cute. Now, the actress who played Bill's daughter is Samara Weaving. And when Keanu Reeves found out that she was Hugo Weaving's niece, he absolutely wanted her in the movie because, as you know, Hugo Weaving was with Keanu Reeves in all three of the Matrix movies. So I loved that Keanu Reeves said, wait, we need her in this movie. So I thought that was cute. Another cameo performance is actually by Dave Grohl, the lead vocalist and guitarist of Foo Fighters and the former drummer of Nirvana. So that was kind of fun and another little musical touch. And a fake interstate was built in the parking lot for the big concert scene at the very end of the movie. And I always think it's really fun to see what movie crews do to create the moment that we want. And speaking of the moment that we wanted, at the very beginning of the movie, you see Orion Pictures and that logo, and it just takes you back to the 80s. And I thought that that was a really nice little touch. Now, there were some things I didn't like. First of all, Bill and Ted are now married with kids, right? The storyline that had the wives going to therapy, I thought was kind of a waste of time. Of course, they had to introduce the wives and have them exist because they're married. We learn that they're princesses, but they were princesses in the former movies. And so I'm not sure why they didn't bring back the other actresses who played the princesses, although in every single movie, it's a different set of actresses. And Jayma Mays and Erin Hayes did a fine job, but it just seemed like the story didn't really go anywhere. It did carry a certain plot point, but I felt bad for the actresses because they didn't really get to do much. And it's hard to believe that Bill and Ted are even married because they just act like teenagers still. And you think, how did these two guys raise a family and be married or even snag these princesses who seem to be, pretty mature women and wives? And so I didn't quite buy that part of the story. And I didn't quite buy some of the other moments of the story where things happen for no reason whatsoever. There's no explanation. And so the second time I watched the movie again, you'd have to suspend your disbelief and just go along for the ride. Some of the green scenes, though, did look a little lame, and some of the dialogue and the pacing wasn't as good as I thought it should be or should have been. Not all of the jokes land, and in fact, there aren't any really funny moments or lines that stick out in my mind, but it's the visual gags that I'll remember the most. And again, kudos to that makeup team. I felt like the movie ended rather abruptly, and the editing looked a little bit rushed as well. And now I know that this is 2020 and studios are scrambling to put things together for us, for our enjoyment, and I appreciate that. But it seemed like a little bit more time could have been spent in the editing portion of the production. And then finally, I felt like Bill and Ted were a little bit neutered in this movie. All of this woke Hollywood script writing is so fixated on female empowerment that even the stars of this movie, Bill and Ted, just kind of muddled through their own part of the story while their daughters saved the day. And so that was a little bit disappointing. And yet, of course, as a female, I'm like, yay. But I had mixed feelings about that because I wanted Bill and Ted to save the day. Now, that's not a spoiler because there are some other things that happen, but I'm just saying a lot of emphasis was placed on these girls and that dads were just sort of bumbling idiots. And I don't like when dads are portrayed like that in movies or in TV shows. All right. And then for a interesting line that I'll end with, I liked Death, the character, and he says, "You don't just rock, you got to earn the right to rock." And so I love that the movie was so much about music and the power of music throughout all of the ages and even into today. All right, if you want links to the first two videos, click down below and I've got those there for you. They support my channel. It doesn't cost you any more, but if you click on them and buy or rent the videos, then my little channel earns a little bit. So I appreciate that. And again, be excellent to each other. Bye for now.